A lot of people tell themselves that they'll start when they're ready. The problem with that is nobody really knows what ready is. For me, I thought that was when I had everything planned and every risk calculated. But then my son came along 5 weeks early, and that all had to change. I realized that my son didn't need someone who was good at planning or mitigating risk. He needed somebody who was brave enough to actually start even without everything figured out. I'm Eli, and this is Wellspring. We're building a community around specialty coffee and tabletop gaming and documenting every step of the process along the way. Let's get to work. I feel like a lot of us are living for a version of ourselves that's somewhere off in the future. We're doing everything with the plan that one day we'll be able to stop living the boring life that we have been and actually start living our real, true life. Well, the problem with that is that version of yourself keeps moving further and further away. They're almost off on the horizon, and every time you get closer, the horizon stays that same distance away from you. Our real life always seems to be at the next milestone. The degree, the job, the raise, the family. But the problem with that is that those things become our new floor. They become the new starting point as we realize all of the things that we still don't know when we finally get to those places. The image that I keep coming back to is one of a white room in an apartment that you've just moved into. You're afraid to put things on the walls and unpack your bags because you're moving next month, right? But then you realize 10 years down the road that you're still living out of your suitcase while your life has just been passing you by. That's what I feel like a lot of us are doing with our actual lives. We're investing in a version of our future selves, but that future self keeps getting pushed back further and further the more we realize that we don't know everything that we feel like we should. Just a little bit more about me. I have an MBA with a concentration in finance. I know how to manage million-dollar projects at multi-billion-dollar companies. I know how to project cash flows 10 years into the future. I know all the debt to equity ratio calculations and everything you would need to know to be able to plan for these giant companies for years and years to come. But here's the problem. For some reason, I feel like I'm too scared to sell a $5 latte to my neighbor. Not a $5,000 course, not a $50,000 project, a $5 cup of coffee. And I think there's something deeply humbling about that. I think that the paradox is that the more you know, the less you actually want to do. Most people would look at a coffee shop, they see a cool place, good vibes, great drinks. And when I was in school, I was trying to see labor ratios, liability exposure, leash structures, all of these things that make you more scared to start than excited. And I'm starting to feel like all of this over-engineering is just procrastination with a more respectable name put on it. You know, it feels productive. You're researching, you're planning, you're mitigating risk. But in reality, there comes a point where the next spreadsheet is not just gonna help you start the thing. I think a big reason that I'm afraid to start is that I'm afraid of all the things that I don't know. Some people like to call this the inexperience tax. I do a lot of planning to try to avoid paying the inexperience tax. The problem is you never get out of having to pay it. You can either pay it now when the risks are not as great, or you can pay it way later when the stakes are higher. So I said earlier that my son came 5 weeks early. Just to be clear, he's doing great. We're at home now, but 23 days in the NICU can really put some things into perspective. You know, being awake at 2 a.m., holding your son in his NICU room at the hospital, you kind of start to think, I had everything planned out, and none of that really matters anymore. All of the things that I thought were set in stone, timeline, details, are suddenly shaken and just thrown away. When you're staring at one of the people that needs you the most, later really stops feeling like a good strategy and starts feeling like an excuse. How can I tell my son to follow his dreams if I'm just sitting back constantly trying to mitigate every bit of risk out of following my own, to the point where I'm not actually doing anything? I'm just sitting still, working on spreadsheets and doing research every day. I am at the point where I would rather fail at trying to prove to myself and to my family that this is worthwhile than just sit back and cautiously wait through an efficiently planned life where I never actually make any movements in the direction that I want to be going. I really don't want to be the person that does all of the work of booking the trip and going, getting right up to the edge of the bungee jump, and then talking myself out of it at the last moment. So, what am I actually trying to build? Well, Wellspring is a place that combines really great coffee with really great games to make really great community. You know, I've noticed that we live in an age and time when we are more connected than ever, but somehow we still feel the most isolated that we ever have. We have followers, we have friends, we have all kinds of things. You know, we post ourselves online all the time, but for some reason we still feel isolated and alone. So with Wellspring, I'm trying to bring back the third place, that place between work and home, where you can come in, relax, and connect with your people. Historically, these places have been things like pubs, the barber shop, town square, places where people can hang out and genuinely connect. That space has largely been traded for social media and other forms of entertainment by most people. But what I really want to do is I want to bring something back, something you feel like you can just stop in whenever, find somebody that you know, and have a really good time. A lot of places that are around today, I don't think solve this problem fully. Cafes are great, but a lot of them can sometimes feel cold or feel like you can't really connect with other people. Cafes can sometimes feel like places where people just go to sit on their screens by themselves. And game stores are awesome for hobbyists and game enthusiasts. But I feel like for a lot of newcomers and families, they can feel really intimidating if you're showing up to these places without much experience beforehand. So Wellspring is how I'm trying to solve that problem. A place that is built from the ground up on the concept of community first. Specialty coffee done right, because you deserve a good cup of coffee. Tabletop games are just there to serve as an excuse to put your phone down and connect with the person sitting across from you. This is a space that's designed from the ground up with community first, not consumption. So right now, Wellspring looks like a TCG Player storefront. I am selling my personal collection to fund as much of this as possible. Of course, I'll be going through buying more collections, adding to it. I'll be documenting that process, so let me know if you want to see more of that. And yeah, that might sound like a bit of an ego hit. I go from MBA in finance on LinkedIn to guys selling magic cards out of a basement. But, I think I would rather be humbled now and building something important than comfortable and stagnant later. So we've also got a coffee cart coming up. All the parts for that have been purchased. A lot of them have actually been funded by a GoFundMe raised through my Instagram and TikTok accounts. And I'm very thankful for that. Most of that funding came through there, so that's a huge deal. Just the fact that people are willing to get behind this monetarily is so big, and I do not take that for granted. We're in the permitting and licensing stage right now, so I'll probably have a video coming up in the future where I go through the cart and what that process has been like. So please stick around if you want to see that. But yeah, the cart for me is kind of just a proving ground. It's a place where where I say I need to prove this concept, make it work, see what can be done, improve it. I want to be selling coffee at farmers markets alongside commander decks and board games. So we're working with that. I'm trying to get in with some distributors to see if anybody's willing to even pick up something like this. But right now, that's where we are. So the physical store is something that comes later. Once we have the capital behind it. So the physical store is something that comes later. Once we have proven the concept and have some capital put behind it, hopefully raised by the TCG Player store and the coffee cart. So this channel is gonna be, as much as I can, the raw and unfiltered journey as we go from TCG Player store out of a basement and coffee cart in my garage to hopefully a real cafe that is open, that has a committed group of people that want to connect without screens. And the reason I'm documenting this is because I hope that it can not only serve to drive this mission forward, but can also hopefully stir some of you up to be able to start moving on the thing that you want to start moving on. If you have any questions, reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you about it. I just think there's so much more to life than wading through a corporate job where we're comfy, but we are unhappy. So a community requires people. If you've watched this far, hopefully you're on board. Please hit that subscribe button if this means something to you. If you want to watch as we, make mistakes and learn along the way. So in the next video, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about how I think that a $50,000 finance degree might be holding me back a little bit more than I wish it was. If that's something that might resonate with you, please stick around, hit the subscribe button. We'll see you next time.